writer at jeffthinks.com, visiting lecturer at Sparta Institute for Muggle Studies, assistant professor at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, specializing in Muggle Studies, and former prof at Ilvermorny of Muggle Studies. He's going to be talking to us today about dragons. So if you are interested in dragons, you better get down here right now, because you're going to hear all about them. Again, this would normally cost you hundreds of dollars per credit hour at Hogwarts or Ilvermorny or Sparta Institute for Muggle Studies, so take advantage of this free lesson from Professor Jeffrey Alexander Martin.
Hello again. This is part of our ongoing series, Mug 207, Muggles in Real Life. Now let me ask you this. Have you ever heard Muggles talking about dragons? Yes. When I was young, a very little kid, smaller than you, maybe a little bit bigger than you, I went to my first Quidditch tournament. Who here has been to a Quidditch tournament? Anyone been to a Quidditch tournament? Yes, few people. Excellent. I know even Grand Valley State University has a team near here. I believe some of them are training in that direction. Now, Quidditch is obviously the best sport, my favorite sport. And sometimes when those become big, when they become big tournaments, they put on a little show for us. And that's what they had at this Quidditch tournament. They decided to put on a little show beforehand. So they did this flyover of a few dragons. And it's my first memory of a dragon. Now the first one that flew over was bright red, and the others that followed it were a little darker black. The image always stuck in my mind, their huge wings flying over me. Very scary, very dangerous. You can see why Muggles might get stuck on the idea of something as magical, mystical, and dangerous as dragons. Now, a number of years later, I was doing research on dueling. And for this, I was hanging out in some different restaurants that Muggles eat at, trying to discern exactly how these disagreements come about. And it turns out that some of the Muggles would talk about dragons. And it seemed like sometimes they would talk about dragons like they were real. Now, we all know that there are specific agencies that are supposed to keep dragons secret from Muggles because things go back when Muggles believe in the reality of dragons. They should not know that. They do not have the mental capacity to comprehend the reality of dragons. So as I was listening to them, I thought it was odd that they could talk about dragons and not be amazed and not go insane. So I decided to start asking them about it and started a whole research project around that. So I would go door to door, knock on people's doors and ask them, do you believe in dragons? Yeah? Believe in dragons? Some people believe in dragons, other people would say no. It was kind of amazing. You believe in dragons? Yes. We have a lot of dragon believers. Excellent. And we even have possibly a little dragon up here. That's perfect. Now, after a lot of this research, I found that some Muggles don't believe in dragons, which is what we want, right? We don't want Muggles to believe in dragons. That's dangerous. That's dangerous for us. It's dangerous for them, for the dragons, for everyone. But some Muggles believed in dragons as a reality as far as archetypes go. So they believed that dragons are real as ideas, right? They're real as ideas, but they're not real physically. They're not out there in the world. And now we, as an academic community, have been trying to convince Muggles of this, that they are real ideas, but they are not really flying around. They are not really eating things. But their stories, the Muggle stories, go way back. One of the oldest is George and the Dragon. Has anyone heard of George and the Dragon?
Only the title.
Yes, a few people. Now, there are many different stories of George and the Dragon. But the basic story is this, that there was a special tower, a secret tower, where a beautiful young girl was trapped in this tower. And it was patrolled by a dragon that kept it safe and secret and concealed from everything else. Now there was a knight, George, that he wanted to marry a princess, just like this princess trapped in that tower. But no one could get to her. George was scared, obviously, to go on this epic quest because of the dragon. So he took his horse and he took a lance, which is a big spear-like thing that Muggles ride on horses sometimes, and he decided to go attack the dragon and rescue the princess so that he could marry her, become a prince, and then become king. Now, the normal Muggle story goes that he rode his horse up there, he encountered the dragon, they had an epic battle, and then he won. He slayed the dragon, spear through the heart. The dragon died. Now, this story is partially true. The Muggles partially have it right, but it's had to be manipulated a bit over the years. Right? In reality, that dragon was a unique kind of dragon. And the reason it was staying around the castle that the princess was concealed in is because she especially liked a certain type of flower. And that flower puts off a very strong smell. As it turns out, that dragon eats that type of flower. That's what they eat. So he was always around there looking for this type of flower because he was hungry. You want to move away from the speaker a little bit. Move this way. Yeah, and then you'll hurt your ears less. There you go. Now, this flower he was trying to find, but he couldn't find it. And these dragons, they don't even have wings, all right? They're small little dragons, like a large dog. So it really wasn't that scary to any of us. It'd be no problem, right, to get around this dragon. But for a Muggle, it's a bit harder. It's a bit harder. So after George killed this fairly peaceful flower-eating dragon, the Muggles really talked up the story. And that's no problem. That works to our advantage. We want the Muggles to be afraid of the dragons so that if they do happen to encounter them, they'll stay away from them. All right? But it's important to know the real story of George and the dragon. Now, you may think that incidents with dragons don't occur that much anymore with Muggles, but this is incorrect. They actually occur quite a bit. So, there are many plane accidents, boat accidents, car accidents that involve dragons, right? We think they're just an error on some part. But a few years ago, over an ocean, a plane was flying and it disappeared. That's the official story. Right? But the real story is that a small group of dragons thought it was a larger dragon coming to attack them. It was flying over their territory. All right, now these dragons are very territorial and they'll defend their area. So those dragons ganged up and they ended up taking out that plane just for their own protection. Right? Now, many of the Muggles report this in the news as a disappeared plane, which is very scary for them. Yes? Yes, they blame it on the Bermuda Triangle, exactly. Now, Muggles have a lot of these myths to try to cover up dragons, and they naturally are accustomed to that type of thing. So we really try to promote things like the Bermuda Triangle, the Devil's Triangle out by Alaska. These are little hot spots of dragons that have a tendency to attack boats and planes. Just a few years ago, there was a boat in the Mediterranean that you might have heard of. Huge boat, and it ended up tipping over. Now, the official story is that the boat was going along, and then it hit a sandbar. Right? And because it rode up on the sand, it tipped over. Makes a lot of sense. But what we don't want the Muggles to know is that truly the boat was being pursued by a small group of dragons. Right? Otherwise, why would you drive into a sandbar? No one would drive into a sandbar with their boat. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. But if you're being chased by dragons, Muggles have a tendency to freak out, get a little scared, so they rode up on the sandbar, tipped over. So a lot of these accidents occur, and then we have to try to cover them up to conceal the fact that these dragons are around, they're dangerous to Muggles, and sometimes the Muggles are dangerous to them. So these are a series of ongoing events. Yes, questions? Perfect. Dragons in the Michigan Triangle. I am not actually familiar with the Michigan Triangle. Where is it at? there have been a lot of boating accidents in Lake Michigan. That is very true. And it would make sense if there were dragons along the southern part of Lake Michigan. Has anyone else ever heard of that? Has anyone heard of dragons along the southern part? One person, all right? So it's a definite possibility. We should probably look into it a bit more. More research has to be done on that for sure. Are there any other questions about dragons? Yes? Are dragons interested in shiny objects? That is a great question, and the true answer is that it depends on the dragon. Right? There are some dragons that really just focus on hunting and killing. There are other dragons that eat flowers. There are some dragons that collect as many shiny things as they possibly can and hoard them up. And Muggles do believe that dragons, it seems like Muggles believe all dragons like shiny things. They take them, they put them in a cave to hide them, and then Muggles have to go try to retrieve this treasure. There are actually still Muggle treasure hunters today hunting down those treasures, but they obviously have a hard time finding them. Listen. Perfect. Why have dragons never attacked Muggles in the public? That is a great question. They have. They have. Maybe in a group of 20, something like that. Now, those Muggles try to scatter. Obviously, they're really scared at the moment. They know that they know a secret. So there's a special agency that goes out and it tries to cover up these incidents that Muggles have with dragons. And then they take away their memories. Does anyone know the memory erasing charm? Yeah? Say it out. What is it? Obliviate. Very good. Yes, that's very important. That's a very important job. All right, I think we have you first. Yes? Mm-hmm. Are dragons scared of Muggles or people in general? So it depends on the dragon, right? Just like you have certain horses that are scared of people, other horses are not. Certain dogs are scared of people, other dogs are not. It fluctuates by the dragon, and some breeds are more aggressive than others, but it changes a lot by the dragon, which is why we do have some dragon tamers. I think there was one way over here. Did you have a question? Yeah, what is it? One dragon that's real? Yeah? It's a reptile? Yeah, that is true. So she said the dragons, real dragons, are reptiles. And that is very true. So they do a lot of the normal reptile things. The special thing about them is that they're light, right? So they can fly. It's hard to imagine an alligator or a crocodile or even a snake flying. But dragons have that unique ability. And I believe this one? Is there a dragon behind those doors? There is not a dragon behind those doors. But I believe I did see a dragon out here wandering around somewhere, for sure. You could probably, is it that one? In the treasure chest that you can't open? That, it could be. It could be. Yeah. Well, that's partially for your own safety, right?
Benjamin, don't play with that.
Or with it. This one. Yes. Could the idea of dinosaurs really be dragons? And it is a little bit of a mix. So in ancient history, reptiles and dragons came from other animals, right? They've changed over the years. And now we're even starting to see the extinction of some of our favorite dragons that we're trying to protect. So they have a common ancestor, dinosaurs and dragons. Yes, literally. Are Komodo dragons real dragons? They are not. How weird is that? And there are actually dragons that don't have the word dragon in the name that are real dragons. See? It's very confusing. But there have been wingless dragons over the years like the Komodo dragon. They're just a little different. This one. So if a Muggle were to find a wand that's taken as treasure by a dragon, and then the Muggle starts using it, what would we do? Yeah. So this is a couple of things here. right? One is the wand just allows you to channel your magic, right? It just allows you to channel your own inherent magic. Muggles are born without magic. So even if they have a wand, they can't channel the magic they don't have. So it's not too much of a concern. Most Muggles that find wands or have wands, some Muggles even make their own wands, they're not actually very useful like ours, right? Because they're not able to channel the magic since they don't have any. Yeah. And let's see, we'll take, let's do 2 more questions. Yeah? This way. Yeah, some of the dragons cannot fly. That is true. So there are other reptiles that can't fly, and then there are some dragons that can't fly, but most dragons can fly. Yeah, very true. What do we got? All right, we got 3 more. Let's do it. This one. Why are dragon eggs illegal? So dragon eggs are illegal because they're extremely dangerous. Now that is a controversial law because some people make the case that some dragons are fairly small, some dragons do not breathe fire, so there are certain dragons that may be safe for people, but you need a special license to have a dragon as a pet. Now you can get those licenses if you fill out the right paperwork and know the right people, but otherwise it's been deemed by most government organizations that dragons are too dangerous for most people to interact with. Right. Did you have one? Yeah? Yeah? All right, last one. Second to last one. Could I name some flightless dragons? Yes. So there is, well, my favorite one is actually a flightless dragon. It's the flightless dragon that George fought. When George fought the dragon, it's the one that eats flowers. It's now extinct. It was called the slimy green dragon. And because it was kind of slimy to blend in with the flower environment that it was in. All right, last question. Are all dragons poisonous? No. There are some sea serpent dragons that are poisonous, but most dragons are not poisonous. So most of them have fangs, they have claws, they breathe fire. That's what makes them dangerous, but not necessarily the poison. You gotta be close, but 2 more questions, then we're done. Can sea serpent dragons breathe fire? I have not seen a sea serpent dragon breathe fire. I believe it's still possible that there's one out there that could, but I have not seen one as of now. This one? My favorite dragons are all the dragons that fly. I think they're the most interesting, for sure. Yeah. All right, now, everyone, I do have some homework for you, all right? The next time that you hear Muggles talking about dragons, I want you to really pay attention. And then I want you to ask them, inquire, do they really believe in dragons? And why? Why do they believe in dragons, or why do they not believe in dragons? And then get back to me. Start collecting the research, and we can together find out more, all right, about these dragons. More research that needs to be done. Thank you.